Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative, launched in 2019 as one of the world's most comprehensive tree planting campaigns, has achieved remarkable success by establishing over 40 billion new trees across previously degraded landscapes. Beyond its domestic impacts, the initiative has elevated Ethiopia's leadership in African climate solutions, despite facing ongoing difficulties, including high seedling failure rates, tensions with farming communities, and substantial operational costs. Yet, its innovative approach, combining massive public participation with ecosystem restoration, continues to serve as a pioneering model for achieving global sustainability targets. In today's special edition, we'll discuss Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative with due attention to the recent single-day seedling planting campaign under the motto, Revival Through Planting. I'm your host, Gemechisa Mandira, joined by my colleague, Habib Mohammed. Stay with us. Hello, Habib.
Hello, Gemechisa, how are you?
I'm good. Habib, let me begin with the recent campaign, seedling planting campaign, with the motto, Revival Through Planting. We know, of course, Ethiopia's massive tree planting campaign began in 2019, and it was initiated by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's Great Legacy Initiative, and this matters very much. Almost everyone agrees. And why does it matter? For a variety of reasons. Well, if we start with addressing critical environmental challenges, we know deforestation is, one of the biggest challenges we encounter these days, and Ethiopia has lost 35% of its forest cover since 1900, and of course people are saying it has worsened, throughout the years, and these days most of the Ethiopian landscape is degraded, which means, we don't have, forests as we used to have, in the 1900s. So this thing, requires some attention from the government, from the citizens and everyone else. And soil erosion is, of course, one big problem that Ethiopia has been entertaining for the last decades. We can say 85% of Ethiopia's land is degraded, and obviously, this would reduce farm productivity. And of course, we are climate prone in many ways. In other words, we just face climate vulnerability, and this contributes, to recurring droughts, just like, just the one we had, in 2022 across, the Horn of Africa. And this Green Legacy Initiative is deemed to be, one particular solution that is very much likely to address, these challenges. So far, Ethiopia has, of course, planted, more than 40 billion seedlings by 2024, and by 2026, it plans to plant as many as, 50 billion seedlings. Yeah,
Exactly.
And recently, when we had, this campaign with the motto Revival Through Planting, the country managed to plant more than 700 million seedlings in one single day. To be precise, of course, 714.7 million seedlings, and that involved citizens as many as 29.7 million. Yeah,
Exactly.
and of course, people have come out and then engaged in this campaign in such a way that, just they managed to come up with a result beyond expectation. When we expected, to plant 700 million seedlings, we just could go beyond that. And of course, back in the years, Ethiopian athletes, we remember, in their athletic endeavor, which was said, the Green Flood, Ethiopian athletes, of course, brought in, a big success.
Exactly.
You remember, in both, men and women races, Ethiopian athletes, made a difference, and the first three ranks, were taken by Ethiopians. And the implication of that success or that winning is, of course, shown in this campaign as well. Yeah? Yeah.
Exactly. You've rightly stated, Gamashisa. So you've gone through how Ethiopia's massive tree planting program, which is part of the Green Legacy, the Green Initiative, the Green Legacy Initiative, which has been anchored by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed since it's been launching. We've seen enormous changes. So as part of every year, Ethiopia has a custom tree plantings that everyone from every walks of life just come out and planting trees everywhere. So as you've mentioned, that this Green Legacy Initiative is really becoming symbolic Ethiopian endeavor. So the green color by itself is becoming associated to the Ethiopian national spirit, as you've said. So this Green Legacy Initiative, as you've mentioned earlier, that addressing critical environmental challenges, the Green Legacy Initiative and ambitions in its goals you've already mentioned, and what are also the tangible impacts that this Green Legacy Initiative has also created. I think it's better to look at that as well. So there is ecosystem restoration is one of the major objectives of this Green Legacy Initiative. So far 7 million hectares of land has been restored as part of this Green Legacy Initiative, which is especially including critical watersheds like the Nile Basin River, because Ethiopia is also a country where the Nile River also situated. So economic benefits as well. So we are also coffee is also associated to Ethiopia. So the coffee productivity has also been increased because of this Green Legacy Initiative, and 30% yield has been increased since the project has been launched. The Green Legacy Initiative has been launched. This is one of the primary iconic export item for Ethiopia. So there is also green jobs, 1 million plus temporary and permanent jobs has been created as part of this initiative. So as you've mentioned, so this initiative is not only just a kind of annual activities, but it has all these kind of broad matters. So whenever we are dealing with this kind of Green Legacy Initiative, we can mention all these important and core objectives of the program. We can possibly mention that.
We need to think of the implications of planting, these seedlings in one single day.
Yes.
And they have, a variety of implications. They multiply, in different aspects of our lives. We can say, well, as I mentioned earlier, Ethiopian landscape, which used to be, covered with thick forests, is no more the case. We know that very well due to various reasons. And Ethiopia is affected by desertification, and its agricultural landscape has been badly affected by climate change. So this initiative, or planting trees, in one single day by mobilizing, just the population or citizens, is, very important, very crucial, because it comes in to rescue, this situation. And when we go to the ecological and economic implication of this planting seedlings in one single day, or of course the Green Legacy Initiative in general, we can think of biodiversity revival, water security, climate resilience, and livelihoods. All these will be impacted positively by this initiative. If we begin with biodiversity revival, of course wildlife in general can be revived. We know wildlife need thick forests in many areas in the country. Places or forests that used to be habitat for wildlife have been badly affected by climate change. And the other one is, of course, this legacy has restored watersheds, like the Blue Nile Basin. Reports reveal that ever since we had this Great Legacy Initiative in the last 6-7 years, the Blue Nile Basin has been improved in terms of its water holding capacity.
Exactly.
Yeah, and of course there is the term which we call carbon sequestration. Exactly. And 14 million tons of carbon dioxide per year has been sequestrated. Exactly. And of course this reduces soil erosion in many ways. The other one is, livelihood.
Exactly.
Ethiopia has been, planting not only, to cover, these arid places, but it has been, very much strategic in doing this. For example, fruit trees such as avocados and mangoes now provide income for more than 2 million households in Ethiopia. Can you add some more?
Ethiopia has been challenged with this population growth, climate decline because of all these kind of issues. So this Green Legacy Initiative has really impacted all the kind of ecological revival and also economic implication as well. You've gone through that, including biodiversity and water security as well, climate resilient issues. So all these things have a long-term impact in the overall development of the country. For example, we've mentioned about climate resilience in food systems. For example, drought mitigation, reforestation of previous degraded land has been recovered as part of this initiative. Reduced import dependency, for example, Ethiopia has initiated also green agri-food businesses that will go and help young people also create jobs and also engage in agriculture. So that really also associated with a kind of economic activity, community empowerment, and nutrition as well, especially in the rural area. Climate touches every part of human life. For example, if you are dealing with the ecosystem, so it integrates with every kind of, it integrates with health, it integrates with agriculture, that's economic activity. It also integrated with food systems. So, it has all-rounded kind of significance as a country in general. So, for example, when we were also talking about the Green Legacy Initiative of Ethiopia, which has been launched since 2019, we've been mentioning about agricultural resilience, reducing dependence on food imports. We've been mentioning about, restoring all these degraded lands and bolstering farm productivity as well. That's all the kind of activities that are associated with this Green Legacy Initiative as well. Yeah.
Ethiopia, longs the 1900s forest coverage it used to have. Yeah?
Yes.
And this is not, something that you can achieve easily. The 1900s level of forest coverage in the country was significant. But through time, because of deforestation, because of, people's reliance on firewood, for example, and seeking land farms, people, began, on a daily basis deforesting or cutting down, just the trees, and through time, the coverage, started to get, minimal. And we have reached a time that this has become, a huge concern. If we look at, data or reports recently, at this moment, Asia, especially, China, and in the recent past, the US were affected by, floods, tsunami. And it's because of, climate change. So this calls on every nation to come up with, measures that mitigate the impact of climate change. Truly speaking, Ethiopia needs some kind of adjustment to its approach towards, fighting, just climate change. And it doesn't mean that you plant seedlings, you just will have, the achievement or the success that you want, okay? You need to protect the seedlings, you need to give them care, and you need to do it, for quite, a period of time, such as, experts, in the area suggest as long as, 3 years. You just plant them and you leave them behind, it will be, a big problem. So as long as Ethiopia wants to come to the 1900 forest coverage, then, which is, of course, 40% of its land,
yes,
okay, to be covered by, forests, then it has to change the way it deals with, its afforestation. Habib, let me take you to the significance of Ethiopia's Great Legacy Initiative for food sovereignty. The forest coverage, in one way or another, determines your success in food sovereignty. So can you
Of
start,
course, yes. We've been mentioning all these kind of implications, like you've mentioned that climate resilience and for food system, for example, drought mitigation is one key point in terms of climate resilience for food systems, restoration of improved microclimates and groundwater restorations, vital rain feed agriculture, all these kind of integrated activities can be maintained whenever you are dealing with all this kind of green initiative. And there is also reduced import dependency we've been mentioning earlier. So, for example, fruit and timber production, 30% of economic species can also can be restored in Kenya, for example, in South Africa. With self-sufficiency in Ethiopia also helps, also can be bolstered because of this Green Legacy initiative. That's one key element that's reducing import dependency. The other is the community empowerment in nutrition. For example, rural employment, over 1 million temporary jobs have been created, as we've mentioned earlier. And other diet diversification issues, for example, whenever you have an integrated project, like you can do some sort of economic activities whenever you have a restored climate or agricultural practices, so that you can diversify your diet system. That also helps improve the people's and the community's life, as you've mentioned. So, of course, it has all-rounded implications overall.
Yeah. As citizens engage in this Green Legacy initiative, over 1 million temporary jobs per year have been secured for citizens, especially in the rural part of the country. And diet diversification has been also one of the things that we secured, in this Green Legacy initiative. The Bounty of the Basket initiative links Green Legacy initiative, avocado, banana farms to school feeding programs, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Yes.
And so children at school could have, access to these fruits, which are nutritious.
As you've mentioned earlier, apart from this, there are also huge implications of this great Green Legacy initiative in terms of regional integration as well. For example, we've been mentioning that environmental and climate cooperation can be one area where this Green Legacy initiative can help countries bring together and work for a common, objective. For example, as East African country like Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, and the rest of the Eastern African countries, we've been interconnected by the Nile Basin restoration project. So Ethiopia's tree planting of the Blue Nile headwaters improves water flow stability to Sudan and Egypt. So that will help, all these kind of countries to rebuild and regenerate. In terms of that's one key element in terms of regional integration. And shared watershed systems and restoration of Omo River basin benefits also communities living along this eastern region. So there is also climate resilience. For example, the carbon credit potential you've been mentioning earlier. So the African Continental Fleet Area is also helping for that. So there is a Green Great Wall initiative, which has been launched in 2007. It was started to just build green legacy in the sub-Saharan African countries, like in the Saharan desert. But lately, 11 countries join it, including Ethiopia, and it has been taken as one of the major initiatives across the African continent. And 20 more countries are now also implementing such great green wall initiative of Africa, which is part of the African Union continental agenda. So, this has a big impact. The Ethiopian Green Legacy Initiative has a big impact in terms of interlocating all these kind of green wall initiatives being implemented in the African continent. As I told you, the initiative was started in 2007 only in sub-Saharan Africa, like in Libya, Algeria, all these countries. Then 11 other countries, including Djibouti, Kenya, Nigeria, follow it, including Burkina Faso. And now South Africa and the southern African countries are also joining the initiative. And Ethiopia is also playing a pivotal role in terms of linking all this great green wall initiative of the African Union. So Ethiopia is really impacting in terms of economic integration and regional integration as well. And as you've also mentioned earlier, economic integration is also key. Trade in agroforestry products. You've mentioned earlier, Ethiopia starts exporting avocados, mangoes, and coffee grown under the Green Legacy Initiative. And Djibouti and Kenya and the Middle East are also boosting inter-Africa trade as part of this initiative, which is also a good move. It has also political and diplomatic influence across the Eastern Africa region and the African continent in general, because this is how you use your soft power as a country to integrate or leave a green legacy effect and bolster your diplomatic relations with other neighboring African countries and different African countries as well. So it also helps that the AU IGAD advocacy Ethiopia also pushes for Pan-African Green Deal policies, leveraging for Green Legacy Initiative, as you've mentioned earlier. So 14 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions has been restored. I mean, that has been recovered, because that is an equivalent of 3 million cars can emit all these greenhouse gas emissions. And whenever you have all these kind of green initiatives or green plantations, so you are really hugely contributing for climate change effects.
This is something that must be dealt with in a way that is cooperative among countries. Okay, neighboring countries are expected to draw lessons, to take away from the experiences of the Green Legacy Initiative in Ethiopia. And as you have said, the Green Legacy Initiative has environmental restoration implications. Okay, it can help a lot in ensuring food sovereignty. Exactly. And of course it allows these countries to come together. Other countries can learn from Ethiopia's experience in this regards, and of course they have taken some steps to mimic what Ethiopia has been doing in this regard. Habib, let me take you to my next point, which is this Green Legacy Initiative has spurred resource exchanges and partnerships with several countries. Yes. Leveraging restoration for regional cooperation, technology transfer, and economic integration. And what are exactly just these collaborations?
Exactly. So there is huge sphere, there is huge opportunity to collaborate between countries in terms of this Green Legacy Initiative, especially the Green Legacy Initiative that Ethiopia has been anchoring. So helps to reconnect with other countries like China, for example. For example, there is provided drones and satellite monitoring tools to track tree survival rates. So that's one technological learning that countries are, sharing each other. For example, that's a knowledge and technology sharing transfer. I mean, technology transfer that this Green Legacy Initiative also helps. So Israel, for example, Israel is very has been spearheading in terms of drip irrigation. So Ethiopia and Israel has been collaborating in terms of the knowledge transfer of drip irrigation system. So Ethiopia has been implementing this kind of techniques, which Israel has been anchoring for several decades. So that also helps both countries, to work together in this Green Legacy Initiative or green development arena. So that also bolsters diplomacy relation between countries. And India, there is also agroforestry models that India also been taking. So Ethiopia and India also sharing this sphere. So of course, the Green Legacy Initiative that Ethiopia has been implementing helps to reapproach countries who have the same technology. In Ethiopia has the initiative, so all these countries can implement the best practices in terms of enhancing all these kind of green developments that Ethiopia has been launching.
Exactly, Habib. The other thing is, of course, financial and material support has been enhanced as a result of the launch of this Green Legacy Initiative. If we take, the European Union have funded 20 million euro for Green Legacy Initiative linked watershed projects in the country. Well, this took place in 2023 and supports from the European Union, supports have been received in the case of fruit processing factories
Yes.
to add value to agroforestry products. When we go to the regional resource exchanges that happened as a result of the Green Legacy Initiative, we can mention, for instance, Kenya. Ethiopia supplied 10 million acacia seedlings for Kenya, okay, and this is, of course, to support Kenya's 15 billion trees program back in 2024, and there was, of course, a joint carbon credit framework for cross-border reforestation. And Sudan is also the other country that has been involving in Green Legacy Initiative in some way with Ethiopia. And in this case, Ethiopia shared sustainable gum Arabic production techniques from Green Legacy Initiative, which tested, acacia varieties. Djibouti and Rwanda have also their own engagement with Ethiopia as far as the Green Legacy Initiative is concerned. And in this case, of course, Ethiopia pledged Green Legacy Initiative restored groundwater to support Djibouti's urban agriculture. In the case of Rwanda, adopted Ethiopia's mass mobilization model for its own reforestation drives. And we can see that Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative is becoming, exemplary to countries in Africa and beyond. And the advanced world is, engaging with Ethiopia in a better way that enhance, development endeavors in the country because of, the Green Legacy Initiative.
There are many international organizations like the private sector, civil society organization funded by the European Union, other World Banks, who are also reapproaching Ethiopia because the Green Legacy Initiative has also a new frontier of carbon exporting. As we've been mentioning earlier, that carbon, is a kind of that brings, whenever a country is working on its green development, so there is a kind of ecosystem shift from one region to the other. So that's why these civil society organizations in the world, funded by other international organizations, are reapproaching Ethiopia because carbon trading has been one of the major income earning practices in the contemporary world. So Ethiopia is really, attracting many international and the developed world by also, negotiating in the COP28 and COP29 World Climate Negotiation, that whenever you have developed your own Green Legacy Initiative, so you are contributing for the overall climate financing issues, or recovering the planet from all these kind of climate change issues. So that's that will gonna give a huge leverage for Ethiopia to bargain or negotiate in the international arena, that all these climate financing issues has been lagging, so the developed world are not giving attention. So Ethiopia has a bold move in terms of Green Legacy initiatives. The Green Legacy has a huge significance for achieving the 2030 Zero Hunger Agenda 2063 of the African Union, and also the United Nations 2030 agenda that aspires to end hunger by 2030. So this has direct contribution to SDG 2, which also aspires for the implementation of SDG. So Ethiopia is really working on boosting agricultural productivity. So all these things can help Ethiopia achieve alignment with Agenda 2063, the African We Want agenda, and other international initiatives. For example, we've been mentioning that the African Great Green Wall Initiative, which aspires to reclaim 100 million hectares of land by 2030, that Ethiopia has achieved a great milestone out of this agenda. That's why Ethiopia has been mentioned as one of the country with bold move by interlinking all these kind of great green wall initiatives taken by other countries as well. So that's why there is also one Pan-African institution, the African Climate Justice Initiative, which really tailored Ethiopia for its growing growth and Green Legacy Initiative. So this is a country that can be taken as a pioneer in terms of African agenda, promoting African agenda, or international United Nations agendas, as we mentioned, ending hunger by 2030. There are Zero Hunger projects initiated by the African Union and the United Nations.
Yes, Habib, I just want you to go back to the panel given by high-ranking government officials in a recent past, which is related to school feeding program in the country. Well, our schools, rely on food that is on the market, yeah.
Exactly.
And however, what was suggested is that through the Green Legacy Initiative, we can have access to fruits, for example, and these fruits, just can be supplied to children at school. Yeah. So
Exactly.
by so doing, children at school will have access to nutritious food. Yeah. For example, fruits such as mangoes and avocados can serve, children at school a lot. Agenda 2063 can be properly addressed by the Green Legacy Initiative. For example, Africa's forest will be restored. Yeah, Ethiopia has increased its forest coverage as a result of this initiative. And carbon neutrality, we just, as we said earlier, Ethiopia's 14 million ton of carbon dioxide per year is sequestrated. Yeah, and so this will aid, Africa's, climate goals, and it will have, of course, opportunities, for the youth, especially as far as employment is concerned. We know Green Legacy Initiative has created, more than 1 million temporary jobs, in the country, in Ethiopia. And women are also empowered by this initiative. 60% of nursery workers are women, and
Exactly.
this boosts, their incomes. And regional integration, of course, this is aspired by nations, including Ethiopia. For example, we can think of, cross-border trade. Green Legacy Initiative, has grown avocados, coffee, and these are, exported to countries such as Djibouti, Kenya, and the Middle East under the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Yeah?
Exactly.
And Ethiopia, of course, shares knowledge with neighboring countries such as Sudan, Somalia, and Kenya on mass seedling production. And all these are the results of what? This Green Legacy Initiative.
Exactly. Yeah, when you see overall implication, it is beyond just engaging a country in a kind of annual tree planting activities of that. So we've mentioned since the Prime Minister Abiy has been initiating all this kind of green legacy initiative. So there has been small project that has been creating real impact in the global stage now. So you have all these kind of projects started here and there. Now it's growing into becoming a regional hub and also having a global implication. That's why Ethiopia also envisaged to, also hosting the United Nations Food Systems Summit. All these kind of leverages that the country has been securing is because of all these kind of nature-based activities or initiatives or policies or aspirations taken by government for a more continental and global agenda. So climate change has been an issue, especially there are lots of international climate negotiations like COP 28, 29. So all these kind of issues as a country, if you don't, perform your homework in the country, like if you are not initiating all this green legacy initiative, so you don't have even the confidence to speak out at the global stage, just to initiate other countries or to take bold step against climate change issues, because climate doesn't exclude anyone. It's a global agenda. It also touch every single planet. I'm part of the planet, and every individual is affected by these climate issues.
Well, I think we can wrap it by saying we can tackle hunger and we can advance Agenda 2063 prosperity goals by coming together. And of course, there are three things that need to be considered. There must be sustained political will that goes, beyond tree planting, and that entertains, long-term forest management. Yeah, and the other one is African countries need to ensure that the private sector, is part of this.
Exactly.
Because governments cannot address all these issues only by themselves. Yeah, And the third one is other countries, need to adapt the Pan-African adoption of its mass mobilization model. Yeah, the mass mobilization model of this Green Legacy Initiative. Yeah, I think time is up, and thank you, Habib.
Thank you so much.
Viewers, thank you very much for watching our special edition today, which ends right here. Next time we'll come up with a new one. Until then, goodbye.